Okay. Maybe this is better. I remembered the gavel tonight, so definitely want to use it. Well, welcome everybody to Congregation Shalom's annual meeting. It feels so much better than the past couple of years to be back in person with you all. Being installed as president through a Zoom screen was fun and all, and getting the ceremonial gavel dropped on my doorstep by Beth was nice, but I am happy to see you all here again in person and to experience Congregation Shalom together. Though I do know there are times when we can't experience being here in person, and so I want to thank the people that are watching tonight online as well. And now I'd like to call up Rabbi Noah to do our invocation.
It is good to be together. And so we begin, Adon Olam, God of all people and peoples. May your presence dwell among us, drawing us to serve you and your creatures with justice and with love. Let's stand together. Let us rise for this invocation. And let us listen to each other with respect and treat each other with honor and generosity, so that we may best serve our Creator and justify your choice of us. May our work be for the sake of harmony, like the generations that stood before us. May our eyes be open to see your greatness in the loving congregation and community that we continue to build each and every day. Through our support, spiritually, physically, and financially, may the cause of goodness prosper in our world. When we end a book of Torah and begin another, we say these words together. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. May Congregation Shalom continue to be strong today, tomorrow, and for generations to come. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated.
Or if you'd like, you could stand the whole time. So our first item of business tonight is the approval of the meeting minutes from last year's meeting. I will call on Nancy Barnett.
Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the minutes from last year and move to approve the minutes as published in the annual report.
Thank you very much. Is there a second to that motion? Thank you. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Awesome. And you are welcome to see the meeting minutes in the packet, and I will call for a motion to accept the meeting minutes from last year.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Was that Larry, I think? All right, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Any opposed? Hopefully not. Great. So I want to first thank you all for being here tonight and for your commitments to Congregation Shalom. It feels so good again to have an annual meeting here in this beautiful, holy space. Your dedication to our community and your passion for growing the strength of Congregation Shalom is what makes this place so special. Our Board of Trustees and our Executive Committee have led this organization every step of the way, returning everyone back to Congregation Shalom after one of the most difficult times in our congregation's history. Thanks to everyone involved with our reopening committee for successfully guiding us with the best principles to safely get our congregation thriving. And thank you to our incoming board trustees and endowment committee participants. I welcome you and look very much forward to working with you in the future here. It has been a year of hesitation, yet a lot of new excitement. We welcomed a new director of congregational learning, Brian Avner. It was so great to see a new excitement through the halls of Shalom with our students and our amazing teachers and wonderful madrachim. Our religious education is one of our greatest gems here at Congregation Shalom, and we will continue to grow and enhance our educational programs. Thanks to Brian Avner for a really great first year at Congregation Shalom. It is really great to have him as a part of our team. Another great new enhancement to our team this year was bringing Rabbi Taylor Paslowski here to Milwaukee. Rabbi Paslowski's rabbinic involvement has been a wonderful inspiration to our congregation. I was so glad to celebrate at your installation ceremony last month. I love the spiritual stories you present to our kids, and it is really cool to see their faces when you do this. In just your first year out of rabbinical school, it is special to see your growth and leadership in development. In a challenging year, you have worked really hard to create congregant relationships and comfort all of our families. Thank you for all your wonderful blessings to our congregation. After spending a difficult year chanting from his basement, it is so wonderful to have Cantor Perper back on the bema chanting with poise and passion and moving the spirits of our congregants. Your zest for life and your ability to pass that on to our congregants is truly remarkable. You have a special presence up here on the bema and within our entire congregation. I have spoken to so many congregants who really love your voice. Thanks for the melodies you bring to our lives and the spirit you invoke here at Congregation Shalom. I think my highlight of the year was in the religious school service singing, Who's Like You? And the entire 5th grade class screaming, Micha Mocha! That was amazing spirit and something I realized I really missed the past couple of years, and thanks to you, it's back. I would also like to thank our executive director, Linda Hollyfield, for her unwavering dedication to Congregation Shalom. You have faced adversity head-on and provide our board and our executive committee with the information and insight necessary to make the best decisions for our congregation and to keep us running successfully. The time you put into Shalom is exceptional and well appreciated. You also lead such a great, fun, and dedicated staff here at Shalom. Peyton Roberts, Andrea Gaddy, Amy Kahn, Meredith Canner, Laurel Rose, Mandy Winky, and our entire maintenance and also kitchen staff. Each of you brings something very special to Congregation Shalom, and we are very grateful for all the work that you do. This congregation remains so strong because of the leadership and guidance of our senior rabbi, Rabbi Noah. You have done an amazing job of guiding our community through the challenges of this pandemic and provided inspiration to us all. Through good times and also the difficult times, you are always there for our congregants and provide the time necessary to make meaningful relationships. Congregation Shalom is lucky to have you as our rabbi, and I am lucky to call you my friend. Thanks for leading our congregation back to synagogue, and thanks for filling our lives with important religion, prayer, and spirituality. Like I said, this year certainly started with some hesitation, but we kept building on our successes. It started with a small Shabbat service back in person, then bar and bat mitzvah ceremonies returned here, then High Holy Day services returned back in this beautiful space. The kids then filled our classrooms again. Torah study came back to the chapel. Family Shabbat started to fill the sanctuary. Adult education was revitalized. Mass then became an option. And we then got to rejoice in oneggs and have a pancake breakfast for our students. It was also really great to have the installation ceremony for Rabbi Paslowski. And I really look forward to next week's installation ceremony for Cantor Perper. So many great things are happening in this building, and so many great people are what make this place so special. As we look into next year, we want to build on all these successes. we are looking to welcome even more students and adults into our education programs. We look forward to seeing more congregants participate in our services. We look forward to more programming and more special events, perhaps a congregant family trip to Israel, more concerts, and also more singing. Next week, I look forward to having our first Shalom golf outing, which looks to be very successful. And with all of this, it will also mean that we will have to bring on some more superb staffing. So thanks to everyone for being a part of the success and for continuing to create such a meaningful and vibrant community here at Congregation Shalom. It is now my pleasure to call up Scott Franklin to present this year's financial report.
Good evening. I'm Scott Franklin, a lifelong member of Congregation Shalom, a certified public accountant, and for the last 9 years, our congregation's treasurer. While our rabbis lead us in studying the fourth book of the Torah, Numbers, I lead our lay leadership and senior staff in studying our synagogue's financial numbers. Tonight, I'd like to briefly share some of these numbers with you for the upcoming fiscal year, which runs from July 1 through next year's June 30th, as well as updating you on some other pertinent information. The last 2 years have been a challenge as the COVID pandemic flowed and ebbed. Financially, Congregation Shalom has not had a normal operating year since 2018-2019. Additionally, this current year, ending this month, has seen many changes in our clergy and administrative staffing. Therefore, we revamped the budgeting process and had fewer personnel delve into it, basically because of the onboarding process of new staff. We built this upcoming budget on the bones of this 2018-2019 budget, and instead of tasking newer department heads with the process, the budget was developed by Linda Howfield, our executive director, with insight from myself, Temple President Brent Arnold, as well as Vice Presidents David Arnstein and Steve Wallace from our executive committee. While controlling expenses is certainly part of the process, the most important element of our congregation is maintaining and serving our membership. Although our membership count has declined from the high point several years ago, we still are the largest and strongest Reformed synagogue in the state. And while our membership numbers do fluctuate monthly as members join or leave for various reasons, as of the end of May, our family count stood at 834. Our staffing team will continue its efforts to attract new members and reinvigorate the process for welcoming members once they have joined. Part of our core mission as a synagogue is to provide a sound religious and Hebrew school education for our youth. Our new director of congregational learning, Brian Abner, has overseen the restoration of both programs and has enhanced the educational experience without significant additional costs. The rebounding student population has also resulted in additional school fee revenues, which help offset the costs that we do have. This year, we had about 160 students, and we should rebound again to about 200 for next year. For the 2022-2023 school year, all school fees will stay the same as what they were this year, and families who are in the school should have received an email with some additional information. Now, at the May meeting of the executive committee, the proposed operating budget was approved, subject to ratification by the full temple board. And when the full board met also later in May, the Congregational Board of Trustees did vote to ratify the budget as presented. We are projecting to bring in approximately $2,343,500 of revenue from all sources, and this does include the use of existing funds to offset an expected $2,343,000 of expenses. In the pamphlet that you picked up on your way in on page 10, we have a pie chart which shows the major sources of our revenue. And you will note that our annual commitment revenue is only about 2/3, not even, of our operating revenue. Now, our budget is prepared on a break-even point, and so we are expecting about $188,000 of the gap between projected revenue from outside sources and our income to be filled by the use of funds that have been collected in this year and previous years. We also are hoping to bring in significant development dollars, which will also help in funding our various programming needs. On page 10 of the booklet as well, we have a pie chart showing our major expense categories. And as always, the bulk of our budget is spent on salaries, administration, education, as well as physical plant expenses. Now, as part of this budget, the Temple Board also made the decision to keep the annual commitment level and categories the same for this upcoming year as we had in this past year. We understand that the economy is not faring too well at the moment, and by keeping your membership obligations steady, we hope to help all of you who might otherwise have financial concerns for this upcoming fiscal period. However, our operating costs do continue to rise, and our overall budget is approximately $2,800 per family. So for those congregants who are able to help out more, please feel free to make an additional contribution to our operating fund or increase your annual commitment level. And don't forget, if you bring in a check in payment in full of your upcoming dues bill, by July 15th, we are providing a 2% discount on your amount at that time. And the bills usually would have gone out by now. They will be going out shortly. The Temple Board of Trustees and the Executive Committee also realize that development must continue to be a priority to reduce our reliance even more on annual commitment dollars. And if you would like more information on how to be part of our larger development efforts, please reach out to Linda Howfield, Brent Arnold, or myself, and we can give you some more information. We also continue to critically review our programming and events offerings to ensure that we are meeting the mission of our congregation as well as being fiscally responsible. Our largest expense is our wonderful staff and clergy. However, we were able to realize some cost savings this year with the staffing revamp that we implemented in early July. We additionally want all members to realize that we have many costs that are not so glamorous. Security and an aging physical plant are on the top of this list. And also, as the building has come back to life, our security costs have also increased compared to last year. The Temple Board does have a long list of recommended capital repair work, and it is now imperative that we replenish our various funds so that we can address the next round of expensive long-term needs. Our plumbing system is beginning to fail. Our beautiful Samson Sanctuary is in need of fresh carpeting and seating repairs, and some of our HVAC units are past their useful lives, and the list goes on and on. Any and all contributions will be greatly appreciated. And as a reminder, we do have a specific building maintenance fund for directed donations if you're interested. I would like to personally thank all of the members of our Executive Committee and Board of Trustees for their efforts this past year and looking ahead into next year. Keeping our synagogue running as normal as possible during the pandemic and then returning it to the way it was a challenge we generally overcame well. Our executive director, Linda Howfield, deserves accolades and praise for pulling together all of our thoughts, plans, and projects in order to achieve our budgetary goals while doing everything else she and her staff do to keep Congregation Shalom a warm and inviting place. I also want to thank Laurel Rose and Meredith Canner in our accounting and bookkeeping department for their assistance in generating the monthly reports we all review. All of us on the Board of Trustees and Executive Committee greatly appreciate your past commitments to and involvement with Congregation Shalom, and we hope that each of you is able to continue your support of our congregation for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our past president and chair of this year's nominating committee, Linda Berlin, to present us with the slate of new officers and trustees.
Thank you, Brent. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. The congregation is asked to confirm the following slate of nominees presented by the nominating committee. On the executive committee, President Brent Arnold, a one-year extension of his current term, approved by the Board of Directors via a temporary suspension of the bylaw addressing length of presidential term. The following are all continuing their current unexpired term. Vice Presidents David Arnstein, Larry Gallipo, Matt Honigman, and Steve Wallace. Secretary Terry Stevens. Treasurer Scott Franklin, who is continuing into the final year of his current term, which was extended last year by the board via a temporary bylaw suspension. Immediate past president Beth Silver, and our president-elect position will remain vacant in the short term to hopefully be filled during the current year. On the Board of Trustees, continuing their current terms, trustees Carrie Bilski, Felice Bruskin, Roger Karp, Jamie Druck, Mike Dykman, David Goldberg, Michael Gilbert, Charlie Goodman, Callie Herbst, Deborah O'Connor, Greg Parrish, Matt Siegel, David Wolfson. Past presidents on the board, Linda Berlin, Barry Goldman, Sylvan Liebman, Ben Marins, and Steve Meyerson. And our lifetime trustees, Jim Ross, Aaron Goodstein, Nancy Kennedy Barnett. I'm going to stop for just a minute to share a little story with you. Many of us, like me, we love Aaron, but we struggle with, is it Goodstein? Is it Goodstein? What do we do? I want to share with you a little conversation I had with Aaron today. I called him and I said, Aaron, I have to say your name tonight. Please help me. I'm going to pause again. And he gave me a great way to remember it. He said, remember this. We came from Sheboygan, where there's a lot of beer, and a full stein is a good stein. So if you're wondering, that's how to do it. Thank you, Aaron. We also have 2 nominees for new trustee positions this year, and that would be Carrie Altman and Susie Rosengarten. On our endowment board, continuing their current terms, Ron Miller and Jess Henriksen. 3 new endowment board members we are nominating this evening, Adam Peck, Steve Isaacson, and Gabriel Cal Mark. With your permission, Mr. President, I will conduct the vote of the congregation on this proposed slate. Would all those in favor of the slate as presented, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. And if there are any abstentions, could you just raise your hand? Would you concur that the ayes were in the majority? Thank you. The slate presented has been confirmed by vote of those present at this annual meeting in compliance with the bylaws. Mazel tov, and thank you to our lay leadership group. We also wish to extend our heartfelt thanks to board trustees Riv Goldman and Dan Schnall, and endowment board members Matt Price, Karen Mason, and Darren Goldstein, who have concluded their service after 6 years in position. Thank you for your hard work on behalf of Congregation Shalom. Lastly, I would like to acknowledge this year's nominating committee and thank them for their engagement and collaboration in determining our slate. Beth Silver, who as immediate past president began the work of the committee this year and then transitioned it to me to complete. And committee members Carrie Altman, Jerry Berg, Carrie Bilski, Callie Herbst, Deborah O'Connor, Greg Parrish, Susie Rosengarten, Matt Siegel, Ken Stein, and Elizabeth Liz Sumner. And also thank Executive Director Linda Hollifield for her assistance to the committee. This concludes the report of the nominating committee. Thank you.
I now would like to welcome any of the new board members or endowment committee members. Are any of them here tonight? No? Oh, yeah. Okay, you can please come up, and Rabbi Noah will have the honor of installing you.
So I get the fun part. I get to install you. But I'd like to invite all of our board members, as well as our executive committee members and all of our endowment committee members. If you would stand, sorry, Steve, about this. If you would stand at the bottom of that aisle, bottom step, so that everybody has the opportunity to step forward. Okay, so if you would all stand at the bottom. And if everyone here would, so this is the entire board, the entire executive committee, so if you would come forward, and we are going to, sorry about the piano as well, we are going to open up our ark doors, so please rise as one community as we have the pleasure of installing all of these wonderful members of our community as leaders in our congregation. Behold, a good doctrine has been given unto you, my Torah, forsake it not. For it is a tree of life to those who cling to it. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. This is what we have been taught. This Torah was handed to Moses on Mount Sinai, passed to Joshua, passed on to the judges, to the prophets, to the elders of our people, the scholars of the great assembly. And this Torah was taken through our world, through moments of exaltation of our people and moments of degradation as well. Passed from failing hands of one generation to the strength of the hands of the next. And now it is being passed unto you. And so I am going to invite you to take hold of this Torah and pass it from one of you to the next, all the way across, so that each of you can feel the weight of this Torah. May it be always upon your shoulders with good health, with great strength and joy. Now, as the Torah is being passed one to the next, I have the opportunity to install you with these sacred words. Holy One of blessing, bestow your blessing on these leaders who have been elected to serve our congregation. Instill in them with insight and understanding, perseverance as well as patience. Inspire them to work together in pursuit of our community's greatest aspirations, even as they watch over its daily needs. O God, we are thankful for the dedication and giving spirit that brings these men and women before you, prepared to devote their energies to your service and to the benefit of us all. Grant success to their endeavors, and help them to lead us in the pursuit of our sacred mission. Now we invoke upon you the ancient blessing of our tradition. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. And we can all say, Kei Yehi Ratzon. May this be God's will. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. May God's countenance shine upon you and through you. And we can all say, Kei Yehi Ratzon. May this be God's will. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God always smile upon you and bless you with God's choicest of blessing, the blessing of wholeness, the blessing of peace, the blessing of shalom. And let us say, Amen. Why don't we do Siman Tov and Mazel Tov? Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov, Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov, Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael. Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov, Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov, Siman Tov and Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov and Siman Tov. Yehelanu. You are all installed, I should say Mazel Tov or condolences. I don't know which one it should be, but I wish you all a Mazel Tov. I'm so excited to be working with all of you. I speak for the entire staff. We have great leadership here at Congregation Shalom, and we are delighted to be working with all of you for the benefit of our community. Mazel Tov, everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Nicely done. Yep. Yeah. That was great. Thank you very much, Rabbi. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our Executive Director, Linda Holyfield.
Thank you, Rabbi. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here for our 71st annual meeting. I'd like to start out by thanking the Shalom staff, Amy Kahn, Andrea Gaddy, Laurel Rose, Meredith Canner, Mandy Winkie, Peyton Roberts, Brian Avner, Jacob McElroan, Ben Carter, John Hagdorn, and the clergy, Rabbi Noah, Rabbi Paslowski, and Cantor Perper. These are the people who make it possible for us to do all that we do at Shalom. It is truly a delight to work with all of them. And I also would like to thank the members of the Executive Committee, Brent Arnold, Scott Franklin, David Arnstein, Steve Wallace, Terry Stevens, Beth Silver, Larry Gullipole, and Matt Honigman. Thank you for your dedication to Congregation Shalom and your commitment to making our synagogue a place of joy and light. And I also extend these thanks to all of the board members. And I welcome the new board members who will be joining us and the new endowment board members as well. So as I was thinking about what to talk about tonight, I'd like to begin by sharing with you that I love challenges. I thrive on problem solving. This past year was chock full of challenges and problems to be solved. So from my perspective, it really was a wonderful year. We formed the, let me just go back a moment and say that many of these challenges that I'm going to speak about are related to the fact that COVID has become part of our lives, and we had to figure out how to operate, how to function, and how to deal with COVID. So one of the things that we did was we formed the Reopening Task Force in September of 2020. Little did we know that we would continue to turn to them throughout the 21-22 year for recommendations and guidance. Between August and May, the task force met frequently and also were asked to respond to numerous emails. The meetings were long and the discussions could be very difficult. The Jewish value of pikuah nefesh, preserving life, often helped to frame decisions. The task force made recommendations related to both the school and to other synagogue operations on key topics such as whether it was safe to gather in person, whether we should require masks when indoors, would it be safe to serve food, one of the most controversial issues of all, I would say. The task force was made up of a group of people who had different training and different perspectives. There is tremendous value in working with a group of people like this, as their thoughts and opinions reflect the diversity of our congregants. As a side note, you may remember when the Wisconsin Council of Churches issued a statement asking that all churches suspend services in person in January when COVID case counts were soaring. So I was curious about how they came to that decision, knowing the kinds of conversations that we had at our task force meetings. And so I called the executive director of the Wisconsin Council for Churches, and I asked what guidance they had used when coming to that recommendation. And he explained to me that there was someone that he knew who had at one time worked for the city of Milwaukee in their health department, and he relied on that individual for guidance. I found that very interesting. I pondered, but only for a moment, whether decision-making by one expert might be a better way to manage, particularly when dealing with COVID. If we had one person making decisions about how to navigate during COVID, that would be so much more efficient. But our decision-making process related to COVID and to many other things encourages us to consider different viewpoints, to gain a better understanding of the matter at hand, to be open to possibilities that we might not have previously considered. And this is the process and framework within which the task force functioned. Before July, and as a result of COVID, staff were on a staggered schedule. We made these arrangements so fewer people would be in the building at any one time. All staff returned to working in the building July 1st. At that time, Rabbi Paslowski and Brian Abner joined us. Later in the year, we had 3 staff resign, and we hired 3 new people to replace them. Staffing changes create wonderful opportunities. New staff bring fresh ideas, different skills and experiences. And we shifted responsibilities as we reimagined how we could operate more effectively. But one thing to note about Congregation Shalom, there is a steep learning curve when someone begins working here. And it generally takes a full year of experiencing everything we do. In some ways, it's similar to the one-year cycle of the Torah. When COVID first began and we realized we would need to cancel all scheduled events, we were able to respond very quickly. In retrospect, this was a lot easier than we expected, although no one expected that the building would be closed for so long. Notice I did not use the words shut down, because we never did shut down. Clergy were always available, and we quickly learned to use Zoom and other new technology so we could stay in contact with members. This was a very stressful time, specifically early on before the vaccine, when so many people were getting sick and passing away. And many people were very fearful during this time. Those fears diminished somewhat when the vaccine became available. As a result of the experience of not being able to gather in person, we saw the benefit of making services available online for people who, first of all, weren't able to come because we weren't allowing them in the building, but also we learned that there are people who are not able to come to Shalom. And so for the first time, they were able to view our services. And while this does not replace the sense of community that members feel when we gather together, at least it provides an option for people who cannot be here in person. And we intend to continue to live stream services for that reason. On the other hand, we learned that when it comes to teaching children remotely, we found that was extremely difficult. Keeping children engaged during Zoom learning is not an easy thing to accomplish. So after teaching remotely in 2019 and 2020, we felt we needed to return to in-person learning this school year. In planning for the year and under the direction of Brian Avner, many precautions were taken to minimize the risk of COVID transmission among students. We purchased air filters for the classrooms. We spread out the desks so the children maintained social distance. We eliminated the morning service in the sanctuary where all the classes joined together. Instead, we installed computers and monitors in the classrooms so the morning service could be viewed by all the students. We kept the classes separated while they were in the building, so if we learned of a case of COVID, we then would be able to notify the families of the children in those classrooms. We instituted a new procedure for dropping off and picking up students using 2 entry points in the building rather than just 1. These adaptive practices all help to keep our children safe this past year. Returning to services and other activities in the building occurred in stages. In this way, if we did have to limit the use of the building, it would be much easier to manage. While we originally had planned to begin serving food in the building in January, the skyrocketing case counts resulted in our postponing the reintroduction of food until April 1st. We are so grateful to all the families who had bar bat mitzvahs planned during this time for their patience and flexibility. There is so much excitement and anticipation around this life cycle event, and not being able to celebrate this simcha in the way the families had envisioned was very difficult. COVID brought us a whole new vocabulary and many new experiences. We knew nothing about virtual gatherings, about hybrid events, about Moderna and Pfizer vaccines. Who knew there was a verb for being boosted? What about KN95s, social distancing, and regular hand sanitizing for everyone, not just those who work in medical offices? We became familiar with the guidelines for post-exposure testing and quarantining. And many of us know now that it is not very pleasant to have a cotton swab inserted deep into our nasal passages. We know about COVID home tests, something many of us now keep routinely in our medicine cabinets, as well as the difference between rapid tests and PCR tests. We have heard about and may even know those diagnosed with long-haul COVID. So we have arrived at a new normal. Since April, we are serving food. While we are recommending that people continue to wear masks in the building, we have decided to leave that to the decision of each person. We have learned how good it is to come together in person and to actually see the full face of the person you are talking to. And the biggest lesson of all is that from one day to the next, even from one moment to the next, we never know what awaits us. We need to be flexible and patient and willing to learn and adapt. There are no guarantees about the future. Take nothing and no one for granted. Be your best self in the moment and cherish the ones you love. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Well spoken. I will now invite our clergy. Oh, okay. Rabbi Noah to make some remarks.
Keep on wanting to say Shabbat Shalom. You know, I always love the springtime. You love the springtime like I do? You know, after a significant period of time of cold and bare branches, we get to walk outside our homes and see the budding of the flowers and the trees. They give way to the beautiful, rich foliage of green that we're seeing outside right now. I can't help feel that the past year has been a little bit like a springtime as well. Following a long and challenging period of COVID in which we saw our access to the world and each other restricted, we've taken steps out of the darkness and into the light. For sure, we are not entirely there yet, but there is significant promise in our future. So let us pray that we might have a year in which COVID and all disease is finally and permanently behind us. Now, this week's Torah portion is Behalotecha from the book of Numbers. And the word Behalotecha, for which the Torah portion is named, means when you set up, or in this case in the verse, Behalotecha et hanerot, when you kindle the menorah, referring to the seven-branched menorah that stood in the great temple. And the seven-branched menorah is the oldest symbol of our people and a symbol of enlightenment for millennia. And tonight, as we stand in a sanctuary that has reminders of the light of that menorah all around us, for example, if you look up at the ceiling, you'll see the menorah. And the tree behind me, you'll see the light of the menorah. And we can all see the light that emanates from all of you as well. So I'd like to present you with 7 reasons for us to celebrate the light in our community. I promise you they'll be short, except for the first one. So the first is the light of our ideals. From time to time, I think it's important for us to review our mission statement, and what better time than at our annual meeting. So I'm going to read it to you. It's a wonderful mission statement. Congregation Shalom is a Reformed Jewish congregation representing a liberal interpretation of Judaism, building upon the bedrock of stability established by our founders in 1951. We are dedicated to the study and teaching of the ethical and spiritual ideals of Judaism and to integrate these ideals into the present-day world. We are dedicated to building a community which affirms God's existence and to working for the benefit and continuity of the Jewish people and humankind. We recognize this country's diversity and will endeavor to be as inclusive as possible so that each member of our community feels comfortable and is provided with an opportunity to embrace the rituals and beliefs of Reformed Judaism. We seek to provide a welcoming environment in which individuals and families are encouraged to engage in the study of Torah, prayer, acts of loving kindness, and righteous deeds. Together we worship God, celebrate Shabbat, sanctify Jewish holidays, and observe life cycle events in a manner that reflects the flavor and emotion of Jewish tradition and allows the freedom to be creative. We recognize study as central to the foundation of strong Jewish identity and to the perpetuation of our Jewish heritage. We are thus committed to providing a rich educational program for children and adults through our religious school, Hebrew school, library, and other educational programs. We recognize that the Jewish people look to the rabbis, cantors, and educators for spiritual guidance. Therefore, we uphold the creative, spiritual, and intellectual freedom of our rabbis, cantor, and educators. We seek to address contemporary Jewish issues, support the state of Israel, and strive to strengthen the bonds of the worldwide Jewish community. We also acknowledge that we are part of a greater community, both Jewish and non-Jewish. We strive to improve life within the broader community and promote better understanding and tolerance among its members. Our endeavors in this regard reinforce our faith in the one God of all humanity, who offers us the strength to uplift the plight of those less fortunate. We are committed to the ideals of Tikkun Olam. Congregation Shalom shall always be a sanctuary of warmth, comfort, and spirituality. You know, when I first read this mission statement, I was like, wow, all that in the kitchen sink. But truly, when we read that mission statement, I can't help but feel shalom as part of that mission, that it really indicates who we are, who we strive to be, who we continue to be. And we've upheld these ideals even in difficult times, even in times it felt as though the world didn't just share in these ideals, but was actively working to oppose them. But despite it all, we have endeavored to kindle and continue to adhere to the light that emanates from shalom. And in order to do that, we need our second light, the light of resiliency. Over the COVID years, we very quickly shifted to connecting our community through virtual means. It wasn't easy. All of us needed to learn new skills, but that was what it took to bring Torah to the homes of our community. And the light of the Torah was not diminished even over what I hope we will reflect on by calling the COVID years, years that are in the past. And this year we emerged from COVID and had to again shift gears and determine how we might proceed, as Linda shared with us. The summer months were a brief reprieve from COVID's grip, and we believed that we could gather safely for high holidays, and we did. Those who felt comfortable being in person arrived and were blessed to have an experience in which our voices were once again united in song and prayer. And throughout this year, Shabbat services took place in person and online. Adult educational opportunities resumed. Weddings were performed. Babies were named. B'nai Mitzvah students ascended to the Torah, and members of our community were tended to in difficult moments and accompanied as they entered their final passage. And through all of it, we can say with clarity there is power and importance in presence, be it virtual or holding a hand. Our presence is a sacred undertaking. And speaking of presence, the third light, the light of our youth, is remarkable. Their presence once again brought light to our classrooms. With careful restrictions, our religious and Hebrew schools once again brought teachers and students together in person to enjoy and learn about their culture, history, language, religion, and guarantee a future for Judaism in Milwaukee. I think you know how wonderful it was to hear those little voices in our midst again. And we owe a tremendous debt to our teachers in particular for their talent and commitment to the undertaking of making Judaism truly l'dor vador, from generation to generation, something passed that from one hand to the next. We also owe a debt to our students and their parents for their commitment to our future. And of course, we owe a debt to our now not so new Director of Congregational Learning, see, I got it right, after a year, Brian Avner, who I will speak more about shortly. The fourth light is the light of our community. Just as our young people bring light, so too do all the generations at Congregation Shalom. In our prayer book and in the Talmud, we read, "Blessed is the generation where the old listens to the young, and doubly blessed is the generation where the young listen to the old." Our congregation is rich with community. We pray together, we learn together, and we engage in acts of loving kindness together. There are so few places in which the generations can intermingle, and synagogues, particularly our synagogue, happens to be one of them. And we must not take that for granted. Our society is filled with generational segmentation. Our synagogue must continue to be a place where we value and care for each other. The fifth light is the light of our staff. We have wonderful staff members at our congregation. I work alongside a wonderful clergy staff that deserves our thanks. Cantor Perper, who we will be celebrating next week at installation, we know that it has been such a wonderful year of uplifting music and his positive attitude and his passionate prayers. It's a joy to watch young and old alike respond so beautifully to what he brings. And of course, we also want to thank Cantor Steinsnyder, who also provides us with her beautiful music throughout the year. Rabbi Paslowski also joined us this year and has added a wonderful spiritual dimension to our clergy. She's taught us profound lessons and has, with great dignity, moved through her first cycle of seasons at Congregation Shalom. And from the bedside of congregants to welcoming the littlest members, Rabbi Paslowski has been a comforting and uplifting presence. And we're so excited to continue to learn from you, Rabbi, and I celebrate with you all the simchas to come. And Brian Avner has done remarkable things for our school. What a year it's been. And I'm amazed at what he's been able to accomplish and how quickly he's stepped into his role. He's an extraordinary leader and brings creative and tremendous Judaic knowledge to our community. Our school is sacred. It allows young people to grow and be nourished by outstanding teachers, values, and vision, and that is a credit to Brian's leadership. We have fabulous plans for our religious and Hebrew school in the year to come, and I'm excited to see the fruition of his work. Also, we're deeply grateful to our emeriti, Cantor Berman and Rabbi Shapiro, whose constant wisdom, presence, and care for all of us in our community is truly a blessing. We're all moved by their continuing sacred work, and they are examples to everyone who has the joy to spend time with them. We also owe our thanks to Linda Hollifield. Linda is a wonderful partner in making sure that Shalom remains a vital and vibrant place for not only our generation, but generations to come. Her tireless, and I do mean tireless, work and on our behalf is so appreciated by all of us. We are fortunate to have you, Linda, and all the energy and devotion through thoughtful skill and tremendous dedication that you show to our community. And Linda makes sure that everything we do here is done with enthusiasm and a degree of excellence. And our administrative staff, Peyton Roberts, Mandy Winke, Andrea Gotti, Amy Kahn, Laura Rose, Meredith Kanner, Jacob Nickel-Roan, John Hagedorn, Ben Carter, and consultant Katie Sparks, all work so hard to keep Shalom a dynamic, holy, and warm place for all of us. And we owe them our thanks as we begin. This is beginning our 71st year, I think. Yes, that's right. Now, the sixth light is the light of our lay leaders, all of you. None of this could happen without your leadership, without the tremendous dedication, enthusiasm, and partnership by Brent Arnold. Brent gives of his time, his wisdom, his thoughtfulness with a cooperative spirit and feels a profound sense of sacred responsibility. And Brent, I know that you have many people that turn to you for support, not the least of which your family. But I am grateful for the energizing way and look forward to all the challenges and opportunities that we will transcend and seize upon together in the coming year. Thank you for your wonderful leadership, Brent, and your friendship. And thank you, too, to those who serve our congregation in all the leadership positions, those who are taking on this awesome privilege, and those who are taking a well-deserved break from it. In particular, I want to thank Dan Schnoll and Riv Goldman, who are leaving our board, and Matt Price, Karen Mazin, and Darren Goldstein, who are leaving our endowment board. You've been outstanding leaders in our congregation, and I know that you will continue to serve in other meaningful ways. Finally, I leave you with a seventh light. See, not so bad. Seven. In rabbinical school, they always said a 3-point sermon. They never said a 7-point sermon. But seventh light, which are all of our dreams for the future. The seventh light is all of our dreams for the future. You know, Shalom is a beautiful tapestry made up of people, each with their own unique vision and dreams for the future. When we consider the menorah, symbol of light, and compare it with the light that emanates from our own community, we see the radiant, resplendent vision of beauty. We are the inheritors of the dreams of those who founded this congregation soon to be 71 years ago. They had dreams for what we might become. And now it is the moment to dream new dreams, to create a future for Judaism in Milwaukee that can be passed to the future leaders and clergy that will walk this bima and these storied halls. That in itself is a light and a beacon to those who will reach with their hands to us to pass the torch. Let us bring that light forward and together bring shalom to our spiritual inheritors. That is our charge and that is our legacy. We have a lot of light to celebrate this evening. May the light of shalom shine ever brightly, lighting our path to the future, today and every day. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May this be God's will.
Thank you for those wonderful words, Rabbi. I will now introduce our Rabbi Paslowski to come and do our final benediction.
I will keep it brief as we are at the close of our annual meeting. This past year has been full of surprises. As a congregation, we have navigated them with dignity and flexibility, never wavering from our mission, which we just heard, to be a sanctuary of warmth, comfort, and spirituality. Eternal One, may you bless the efforts of our Board of Trustees, Executive Committee, the Reopening Task Force, and the many committees and groups who contribute to our success in Jewish values, operations, and more. Bless the work of our Congregation Shalom staff, without whom we could not be the welcoming religious community that we are. Bless each and every congregant who together make up the fabric of Congregation Shalom. Bless the connections made over this past year. Support our hopes and dreams, partnering with us to see them to fruition in the years to come. Guide us as we continue the work of building holy relationships with one another. At moments such as this, we say the words of Shehechianu, thanking God for allowing us to come to this moment. And as we come to close out this year, one of challenges, joys, and moments of spiritual wholeness, let us say these words together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehacheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. May we continue to go from strength to strength. Amen.
Okay, I guess as part of this annual meeting, we are required to open it up for questions. If there are any questions, I welcome them. Otherwise, I invite you all to join us in Clearfield Hall for a nice dessert reception, and feel free to ask questions then. Thank you, Aaron. Is there a second? Second by Larry. All in favor? I now proclaim that the annual meeting is officially over.